It was December 1942. The Pacific Ocean was a graveyard of metal and men. World War II raged across the seas, and mercy was in short supply, for the British prisoners of war crammed into the hold of the SS Lisbon Maru. Hope was already a fading memory. The cargo ship, flying no Red Cross, bore no markings to show it carried human beings, only men weakened by starvation, sickness, and suffering, locked away like forgotten cargo. They were survivors of the fall of Hong Kong, captured by the Japanese, and now being transported to labor camps on the mainland. There were over 1,800 British POWs aboard, soldiers from the Royal Scots, Middlesex Regiment, and others. They lay in the filthy hold beneath the deck, baking in heat and stifling stench. And then came the explosion. A torpedo struck the side of the ship. An American submarine, the USS Grouper, had spotted the Lisbon Maru, not knowing it carried POWs. The sub did what any wartime vessel would. It fired. The blast tore through the hull. Water flooded the lower levels. The Japanese guards locked the hatches shut, trapping the prisoners below as the ship began to list. Men clawed at the wooden ceilings, shouting and pounding, knowing death was rising beneath them. Panic became prayer, and still, the guards refused to open the doors. Some tried to force their way out. A few found holes. A handful swam through pitch-black corridors to reach the deck. The Lisbon Maru was dying, and so were they. By morning, the ship was sinking. The Japanese abandoned it, leaving the British POWs to their fate. Those who had made it to the deck jumped into the sea. Many could barely swim. Some clung to floating wreckage. Others thrashed in the cold waves. Sharks circled, men drowned. It should have ended there. But then out of the mist came something no one expected. A Japanese fishing boat followed by more. And then a naval destroyer. They were Japanese ships, but instead of opening fire, the sailors aboard these vessels threw ropes to the struggling POWs. They pulled them from the water, lifted them aboard, gave them water, food, blankets. They risked the wrath of their commanders. This act of mercy, this stunning moment of humanity amid horror, was led by ordinary Japanese sailors who chose compassion over cruelty. Accounts differ on who exactly gave the order, but among the rescuers was the crew of the IJN Kiyashimo, a destroyer of the Imperial Japanese Navy. Despite orders to avoid contact, they retrieved over 400 British POWs from the sea. One British survivor would later write, "They gave us cigarettes, tea. They spoke softly to us. They treated us as men, not enemies. The rescued men were weak, burned by the sun. Some near death, but for a fleeting moment. They were human again. Their captors became their saviors." Not all stories from that day ended in kindness. Some survivors were recaptured and beaten. Others vanished into Japan's brutal POW system, never to be seen again. But the memory of the rescue endured. In post-war interviews, several British survivors testified to the compassion shown by the Japanese sailors. And though history remembers many atrocities committed by the Empire of Japan, this single act stands as a quiet defiance of the hate that war breeds. It's a story that rarely appears in textbooks, rarely makes it into films or documentaries, but it happened, because even in a war fueled by ideology and vengeance, even in the most unexpected places, human decency sometimes broke through the darkness. This was not a grand strategy or political maneuver. It was not a general's plan. It was a decision made by individual sailors, men in uniform, taught to hate, told to obey, who saw drowning men and chose to help them. It cost them nothing, but for the men they saved, it meant everything. After the war, some of the rescued POWs would try to trace the identities of their rescuers. Few succeeded. The Kiyashimo itself was later sunk in 1944 during the Battle of Leyte Gulf. Most of its crew died at sea, but the legacy of that day survived in the memories of those it touched. Today, the story of the Lisbon Maru is often remembered for the tragedy, the lives lost, the cruelty, the neglect, but hidden within it is this sliver of hope, a brief moment when compassion refused to die. And in that moment, the boundaries between enemy and ally blurred. What remained was one man reaching out to save another. In war, there are battles, there are victories, there are defeats. But sometimes, the greatest stories are the ones where no shot is fired, no side wins, and no medal is given. Just a hand in the water, pulling someone from the edge of death.